NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle, and I'd like to take you through a run from start to finish. When I pull into the burnout box, my crew chief Ken will tell me when I'm through the water enough. That means we got enough water on the tire. So I'm going to reach down here and I'll put the bike in the third gear. 1 down goes in the second gear, 2 down goes in the third gear. And I'm going to pull in the clutch. There's a starter switch right here on the dash. When Ken plugs the starter into the side of the motorcycle and asks me if I'm ready, I say yes. He turns the starter, I switch the bike on, and the engine will now start to run. I like to find where I want the throttle in my hand and get a good grip on that front brake. I'm holding the front brake as hard as I can, rev up the engine, pop the clutch, I'll break the back tire loose, it starts spinning. Now I look towards George, who tells me if he wants the RPMs higher or lower, and when he wants me to drive out of the burnout. As soon as he says to drive out of the burnout, I release the front brake, pull in the clutch and let off the throttle, and start getting situated to put the bike back in first gear. In order to do that, I can't let go of my clutch, so I have to take my throttle hand, come over here, hold the clutch in. I'll go back down to the gears, pull it all the way up back into first gear. The gears are backwards on the Pro Stock motorcycles compared to a street bike. I'm going to switch back over, grab my throttle. Now I'm going to start driving to my starting line. George puts an X on the starting line to tell me where he wants my front tire to line up. My crew chief Ken Johnson will be standing on side of me. George is behind me. We line the motorcycle up like an arrow, or like you're aiming a gun down the racetrack. George will tell me if I need to point to the left or to the right. Ken will give me the sign, left or right. I make the adjustments. Once I feel like I'm perfectly straight, and Ken gives me a pat on my shoulder, that tells me that I'm ready and my opponent is ready to stage the motorcycle. Now it's time to get in the race mode. So I'll get my butt situated, my feet situated, my hands situated. Once I'm 100% comfortable, I look at the Christmas tree. You all know there's a pre-stage beam and a stage beam. When I'm ready to pre-stage, I'll go ahead and roll into the pre-stage beam. Now I'm waiting for my opponent to pre-stage. As soon as he or she does, I'll roll into the stage beam, waiting for my opponent to stage. As soon as that fourth yellow light comes on, it's wide open throttle. When the yellow lights flash, we call it go on yellow, just like mellow yellow drag racing. When the yellow lights flash, I pop the clutch, my feet come up to the foot pegs. Now I'm looking at my target. There's a shift light right here on the dashboard that tells me when to shift into the second gear. When that comes on, I push this button on my handlebar to shift into second gear. I don't have to use a clutch. I just push the button with my thumb as soon as the light comes on. Now here's the tricky part. When I pop that clutch and release and the bike takes off, I'm going from 0 to 100 miles per hour in less than 2 seconds. I'm also experiencing 3.5 G's trying to pull me off the back of the motorcycle. So while I'm feeling those G-forces and waiting for that shift light to come on, I'm tucked in, holding on as tight as I can. The shift light comes on, I shift to second. The shift light comes on, I shift to third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Now I'm looking for the finish line. Here it comes. I pull in the clutch, let off the throttle, start hitting the brakes very carefully and slowly. When I scrub off enough speed and I know I'm safe, I'll sit up, start slowing down a little bit more, pull off the racetrack, flick the engine off. I'll come to a stop. There's 3 buttons down here. I turn all those switches off, put the bike back in neutral, put my pin back in the shifter button, wait for Ken to come and get me, and that's when I finally start to breathe.